Good day there once again, viewers, your mate Kamikaze78 here, and guys, just tanking in Planetside 2, there's really just something about it. Whether you prefer the Lightning, Prowler, Mag Rider, or my personal favourite, the Mighty Vanguard, going on a brutal kill streak in one of these just can really make you feel like an absolute powerhouse on the battlefield. Recently, as all of you who watch my Twitch streams will know, I've been sinking a lot of certs into my beloved Vanguard on my Connery character to try and get my tank back up to scratch with how it was on my Briggs account. Just recently grabbing the AP gun, the Enforcer, and investing in some upgrades has legit made the biggest difference in how effective I can be in my tank again. And I think the main reason I've begun to enjoy tanking a lot more as of late is because, well, A, I've got a more effective tank, but B, tanking was sort of the first vehicular element of the game that I really sort of started to get good at, and I was able to finally get back into that side of the game with a half-decent loadout. You know, I spent a lot of time in aircraft as I started the game. People who have been with me here on YouTube for a while will know that the first weapons I araxed in Planetside 2 were my breaker rocket pods, and no, I'm not proud of that, but anyway, I never really got good at the air side of the game. With tanking, however, I feel as though I at least got half decent, and as I transferred from server to server, I never really lost my skills as a tanker, but because I lost my cert to tank, I, you know, was never really as effective as I once was. But now being able to play once again with a more effective Vanguard sort of opens up another side of Planetside 2 for me to enjoy that I didn't feel was possible as I was getting my new character on Connery back up and running. So with all that said, I just wanted to spend a little bit of time in today's video discussing some main battle tank tips and pointers that might help you out with your tanking endeavors, because, you know, driving a tank is easy. It's kind of like driving a car in Planetside 2. However, driving a tank and being effective at it is a whole nother story. I did make a video of similar stance a while back, but I feel it's time for an update of sorts. A lot's happened since, you know, now and that video. So anyway, let's get into it. The first thing I want any sort of budding tank drivers to get the hang of here is making use of both third-person and first-person perspectives. While all vehicles in the game are helped by switching it between the perspectives when needed, your main battle tanks see the most amount of use from this third-person perspective, in my humble opinion, mainly because it's your best chance to detect any sort of light assaults or threats that are moving in for a sneaky flank. Whether you spot a C4 hit the deck from above, a heavy assault rocket slam into your side armor, or even see your gunner make a mad turn towards another target, all of these signs can be a saving grace in a pinch, and can only be seen in the third-person perspective. And yes, while you are in the first-person's perspective, you may get a hit marker indicating where a shell or an impact may have come from, but being in the third person just gives you a little bit more information on what angle that shell came from and how you can sort of spot out your enemies a little bit easier as a result. Now, something that I tend to do when I'm in my tank and when I know that I'm in a potentially dangerous situation is switch to third person every time my main gun needs a reload. So I'll take a shot and then switch to third person and quickly scan my surroundings. This is just so I don't find myself become tunnel visioned on a certain target as time goes on. You can also use third person view as a way to scout ahead, get an idea as to what targets you should be prioritizing or whether you should push up in the first place at all, especially when you're about to crest a hill or you've got a small bit of terrain cover covering you and your tank. Having that third person perspective can be an absolute, you know, lifesaver in deciding as to whether you should push forward or whether you should, you know, fall back and wait for some reinforcements to move up with you. Anyway, on the note of tunnel visioning that we made before, this is something that doesn't exactly relate to your performance in your tank directly, but more or less to your performance in an armor column. And this, if anything, is a bit of a public service announcement. But if you are in an armor column and you notice a tank copping a significant amount of damage that needs to retreat to safety, for the love of all that is holy, give it the room it needs. The amount of times that I've gone through every swear in the book cursing the blasted NC that decided to get in my way when I was trying to retreat is beyond me. If you're in a repair sundra and sitting behind a collection of tanks keeping them going, that's fine. Just be ready to move and don't sit there like a muppet as a tank tries to make an escape. I understand that a teammate may be in a really good position and you should be able to get some shells off if you sit behind him, but just be ready to move, for crying out loud. The one thing that can kill an armor column really, really fast is just a bunch of armor getting stuck in this endless traffic jam where everyone starts to panic and starts turning into each other, and then it just becomes an absolute shit show. When you've got a bunch of tanks dying and clustered all together like that, you're going to see a lot of team damage, you're going to see a lot of accidental run-overs, and you're also going to see probably a couple of wreckages land on allied vehicles and kill them as well. So just avoid all of that confusion by keeping it nice and simple. And when I say keep it simple, a rule of thumb that I have is that when you're in an armor column or in an armor lineup, if you will, and you need to back up in a straight line. This will avoid confusion with your allies as to which way they should go to avoid you, and then once you're clear of your allies, then you can start wiggling and wagging to avoid enemy fire as you best see fit. But at the end of the day, if you just start wagging about in this armor column and cause confusion among your teammates, you're going to do more harm than good. If you're an engineer also looking to repair some armor, never sit directly behind them. That is the direction that they will most likely need to retreat, and I can imagine that they won't really give two shits if you're behind them and they're on fire needing to fall back. So try to sit to the side of the tank if you plan to keep its paint job fresh. Your KDR and the driver of the tank that doesn't get a weapons locked as much will appreciate you for it. Now, I also figured that this next little pointer would be obvious, especially considering the changes that have hit the game when the Combined Arms Initiative update was patched through. But always, and I mean always, ensure that you have a gunner with you. No matter how basic your top gun is, have a gunner with you. Sometimes I even make the mistake of forgetting to pick someone up, and the amount of times that you can be outgunned when solo operating a main battle tank is ridiculous. Lightnings will proceed to overpower you when you are running solo in an MBT if they know what they're doing, and there's nothing really quite as embarrassing as being overpowered by a smaller tank when you are in a bigger tank. Makes you look like you have performance issues, if you get my meaning. Now, having your gunner playing the engineer role will also allow for you to have someone get out of the tank and repair when needed while you are still backing away to safety. In dire situations, I've also found that jumping out and letting your tank roll back a little bit into cover while repairing it with your gunner can also be a good strategy to mitigate as much damage as possible. It's been a lifesaver in some situations for that matter. And on the topic of, pointers that are a little bit obvious, and I really can't emphasize this enough, but simply keep an eye as to what you're going to be facing in the long run. Don't go rushing into a situation just for the sake of, I'm in a big fuck-off tank, I should be able to win every engagement that I come across. That's not really how it's going to work. If you run into a situation where you are surrounded by enemies, then yeah, no amount of armor and health pool is going to, stop the inevitable there. Always make sure that you're planning ahead, and as I said before with the third-person tool, scouting ahead to see what kind of threats you're going to be dealing with. Now, something else I recommend doing with your MBT, especially if you are someone who's only just getting into it, is going to go against a lot what I have said in previous videos of mine. That being that you should always focus on buying upgrades for your vehicles/classes and then buy weapons later on. However, when it comes to tanking, I'm going to have to make an exception here and say that it is a necessity that you buy yourself the AP cannon for your MBT. Now, you might be thinking, well, hey now, Cammy, what about the other tank cannons in the game? Aren't they worthy contenders? Don't they have their own, pluses and, positives and cons? And my response to that is yes, they will have their own pros and cons, but at the end of the day, the other tank cannons in the long run aren't going to be as competitive as the AP cannon. They simply do not feature the kind of firepower that suits the role of the MBTs in this game and the kind of threats they're going to be facing. The long and short of it is that when you're in an MBT, your main role is demolishing vehicles. Shelling infantry should be left to the Lightnings and other aircraft. I'm a strong believer that the AP round is a must-have for your MBTs, as it actually gives you a fighting chance when it comes to dealing with enemy tanks and dealing with enemy spawn solutions and harassers in lightning time. I'll also say that harassers are going to have a very easy time picking you apart if you don't have an AP cannon, because the AP cannon just shortens the time to kill on harassers just that ever so little much that makes them a little bit less of a threat. It just takes that one shot less, that one lengthy reload less to deal with a harasser, which is less time of them doing circles around your tank, absolutely obliterating you. The AP round is also kind of a necessity because that's pretty much what most other tank drivers are going to be running these days that are somewhat experienced. Hell, if you were to place a Prowler and a Vanguard against each other with two drivers and gunners of equal skill gunning them, with the Vanguard running the heat round and the Prowler running the AP round, the Prowler is going to win hands down every time. The damage output of the AP round just gives the Prowler the edge, and considering that I've only just recently made the investment back into my AP gun on my Connery character, I can vouch in saying that my effectiveness as a tank driver has grown exponentially. Now obviously with the AP shell you lose out on splash damage, but in doing this it allows for you to test your aim and practice hitting infantry targets directly. At the end of the day, over time, you'll be able to snipe infantry with this gun like no tomorrow, and such training will translate to other parts of the game too. It's really a win-win situation. I really do enjoy using my AP cannon on my tank as sort of a training tool for my aim in other situations in the game. So guys, if you are a new player and are really serious about jumping into tanking, try and get yourself an AP cannon as fast as you can. Again, I know that sounds really hypocritical of me based on what I've been always telling new players to do since the inception of this game. But at the end of the day, guys, an AP cannon is a necessity for dealing with tanks effectively, at least in the long run, if you want to become a better tank gunner. The heat round will get you started, and will get you started on practicing your aim and things like that, and knowing how to, you know, get the theory behind tanks down. But to become a true powerhouse against vehicles in a main battle tank, you need an AP round, and I honestly don't think there's any other contender for an effective tank on your main battle tank in the long run. And guys, on that note, that kind of wraps up this little conversation I wanted to have surrounding main battle tanks and tanking in general in Planetside 2. Some of the tips to you more veterans out there may have seemed a bit redundant, but at the end of the day, this was kind of more aimed for the newer player, and yeah, the rest you have to sort of teach yourself. Those are just sort of these little tips and tricks that I can sort of share with you guys to get you started in your main battle tank adventures. The rest just comes down to how well you can aim, how you know how to position, that sort of thing, and that will come as you learn the tanks and learn how to tank a bit more effectively in your own time. I can't teach you that. I can't teach you skill, I can teach you theory, and that's about it. So guys, on that note, if you enjoyed today's video, then a backhanding of that like button would be greatly appreciated. And if you guys found yourself backhanding that like button and you're new to the channel, then backhand that subscribe button whilst you're at it. And let me know in the comment section down below how you enjoy tanking, or if tanking isn't your thing, what your favourite form of vehicular gameplay is, or whether you're an infantry man. Let's get a conversation started in the comment section down below and in my Discord, which is linked at the end of this video and in the description down below and in the pinned comment. Once again, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. Peace out, and I'll be seeing you all next time. Take care, guys. Have a good one. I'll catch you next time.